The views and content expressed on the following program are provided solely for informational and entertainment purposes. They do not constitute legal advice. A podcast is not a substitute for retaining a competent, licensed attorney to advise you on your specific legal situation.
Break the business, play is work and work is play. Power into creators, have fun along the way. Break the business, doing what it takes. Celebrate success and learn from the mistakes.
How's it going, everybody? Welcome to the show. It is time for Break the Business, where we empower indie creators and have some fun along the way. I'm Ryan Kairalla, and it is a pleasure to have you here this week. I gotta say, viewers and listeners, I have turned into something of quite the little beverage goblin lately as we do this Break the Business program. I have not one, not two, but 3 drinks at my disposal. None of them alcoholic, of course. We're at our best this evening. But I have 3 different drinks in front of me as I do this show, and I assure you, viewers and listeners, there is a method to my madness here. Okay, it has everything to do with me being a dad. Like most things in life, I'm blaming it on my new kid. My being a dad and being a new dad to a wonderful little toddler makes me a little tired this time of night come Break the Business time. So I, have myself a Diet Coke that I use to kind of caffeinate myself a little bit before the show. And then lately I've reached the conclusion that the Diet Coke just doesn't do it. It does not quite get us to show shape to be able to do this fine program for you all. So I have to add on a cup of coffee. Not too much. I have to find that right balance between drinking just enough to get me up for the show, but not so much that I'm up for the rest of the night. It is a delicate balance that I have to realize here. But then after I drink the coffee, I realize that my mouth kind of gets very, kind of phlegmy or whatever. And so then I also have to get some water. And so it's just a crowded bunch of beverages. It shouldn't take me 3 beverages to do a radio show, but that's your life when you're a dad, and we're going to get through it. And I'm already excited for this show. This is going to be a fine little program. Lots of great stuff to talk about. Great guests coming up in the second segment. We're going to be chatting with Hadley Spanier, the global head of artist partnerships and industry relations for one of my favorite music software platforms out there, Musician. I love this platform. I know y'all have seen the YouTube videos about it and the TikTok videos. They're everywhere. They have a lot of ads. It's a really cool platform for learning how to play music. They use machine learning and the mics on your own computer to effectively give you automated music lessons where it's listening to you play the music and you get to play along with the software. And it's such a smart idea. It's so intuitive. I'm excited to learn a lot more about this program from Hadley Spanier. And while we're at it, talk to her about the work that she does with artist partnerships. She gets some of the heaviest hitters in music to join up with this platform to collaborate with it. She recently started a collab between Musician and Billie Eilish, which just seems like a match made in heaven, and I'm excited to chat with her all about that. But before we can begin that conversation that I'm excited to have, there's another person I'm excited to chat with, and I'm always excited when she joins. Thrilled to be joined by our co-host this week, Katie Zaccardi. Hi, Katie.
Hi, Ryan.
All right. Look, you can't just walk in here with your completely new hair and just expect like nothing happened. All right. Like I see a different and look, as a red-blooded, Y-chromosomed, foolish man, right? We're supposed to never be able to notice when a lady changes her hair. But even I can notice this pretty significant shift between the color change and the bangs. I mean, you're a whole new woman. I think it looks great, but something must have happened. Like, are you going through a thing right now? Because bangs usually suggest going through a thing.
Great question. I'm doing phenomenal. And my mental health is great. No need to be concerned despite the bangs. And it's funny, not that anybody who's listening really cares, but this is actually just my natural hair color, and it looks darker because finally I have almost cut away all of the color that was left. But because all I did was get a haircut, and then everyone's like, "Oh my God, did you dye your hair?" But I just felt that I needed to get back to my roots, my Literal roots.
Your literal and metaphorical roots.
And like embrace myself more. And then the bangs were, I was just feeling kind of sassy and I liked them.
Katie, I feel like such a bleep hole for not knowing. I've known you for like 7 years, Katie.
Yeah.
I was today years old when I found out you're not a natural blonde.
Well, I identify as a blonde, so actually I still in my head think I'm a blonde. Like I was that person who was blonde as a kid and like then dirty blonde like as I got older, and then probably in college I started just dyeing my hair, and then it like became really blonde, and now I'm like inside most of the day working, so it's just looking brown. It also looks extra brown right now. I feel like it's a little lighter when I'm out in the sun, but yeah, it
does. I mean, it looks like just straight up brown right now.
Yeah, but don't say that to me though, if you don't mind, because it hurts my feelings. I want to be blonde in my soul, you know.
Oh yeah, we don't want to take that away from you for sure. But
I'm
whatever,
delusional, okay? It's fine. I'm still coming to terms with it. It's okay.
Whatever hue your hair, Katie Zaccardi, I'm happy to be chatting with you, and I love the insight that you bring. Before we get into some of the legal topics this week, I had a colleague talk to me about something lately that it made me want to talk to you about it, because you are also a podcaster like me. You create a lot of your own content, and I think that what I told this person might resonate with you, and you might have some similar thoughts on this. I had a colleague who I've known for a long time and knows I'm a podcaster, right? It's somebody I know from my legal practice and my legal work. And at this point, pretty much anybody who's in who knows me as a lawyer, or as a professor, they know that I podcast, right? You can't search my name without 90% of the first page of Google being this show. Like that is, even though the way I make a living is as a lawyer, the way the world knows me for better or worse is Break the Business, hanging out with folks like, you, Katie. And so I often get people who tell me like, oh, I think it's so cool that you're a podcaster. I love that you do it. And then immediately they'll make it about themselves, which is fine. We're in that kind of, where they say, I'd love to be able to do something like that.
I want to do that.
I was thinking of starting a podcast. But this person, this person was very kind, and they were very sincere when they said like, I love that you do this. I think it's cool. I've always wanted to do this, and I think it would be good for my career and my soul, but I don't think I could ever build a meaningful audience. And I've heard that so many times.
Yeah.
And I get where it comes from, right? Because we define ourselves by the numbers, and when it comes to podcasting, we are inclined to think that it's only worthwhile if you're Joe Rogan, right. If you're NPR, if you're bringing in the huge numbers and have the loyal fan base. And what I told my colleague, and I think it's an important thing to tell other people about too, because I'm not Joe Rogan in terms of listenership. Like the last couple of years have been pretty cool, like having the SiriusXM platform and now having volume.com and everything. And that's been nice. But, 10 years ago, I was doing this in my parents' spare cabana at our house, and, damn near no one was listening.
Yeah.
But even today, I'm not Joe Rogan, but what I tell people when they tell me it's not going to be worth it for me because I'm never going to get the audience that I think I should get, I submit to them that if you do podcasting right, 90% of the benefits that you get as a podcaster, you get even if 0 people are listening to your show. And to a lot of people, that sounds counterintuitive. Like it sounds like a tree falling in the forest, right? If you're podcasting and nobody's listening, how can that be valuable?
Yeah.
And the answer is, if you do it right, if you are putting out consistent content, if you are putting out good content, if you are putting out content that people can find both audio and video form, especially if you work in a profession, like any kind of profession where you're trying to promote yourself as a professional, like a lawyer or a business person, a doctor, anything like that, even a musician, right? having that podcasting platform means that you are building your brand and have a presence online. So you're building your name. You are your first page of Google is all you podcasting, and so you get to dominate on the search engine optimization. You have content that people can go back to and find later. You can establish yourself as a thought leader, and none of those things. You don't lose any. You don't need to have an audience to have any of those things out of podcasting.
Yeah.
Other thing podcasting does for you is it builds your network. I mean, everybody I know in the music industry, including the fantastic person I'm talking to right now, I met through podcasting. Especially somebody like me who comes from like a non-LA, non-New York music market. I don't have a lot of industry people around me. I get to meet them through this podcast. I would never be able to get to hang out with Hadley Spanier, a musician. I don't know if she would meet me for coffee or something, or just get on a Zoom if I wasn't interviewing them for a podcast. Maybe she does. She seems pretty chill. But I get to meet these people and interact with them and build these contacts through this podcast. And that's something that you get even if nobody's listening, even if you're not on SiriusXM, even if you're not on volume.com. And finally, podcasting builds your knowledge base. Whatever your show is about, whatever you're an expert in, doing a podcast every week helps you learn about the industry. It forces you to stay up on the news. It forces you to learn about what's going on and to stay abreast of everything. And you wouldn't normally be able to do that if you didn't have like that weekly requirement to kind of stay abreast on things. And again, you don't need a single listener to get all of that. And that means something in terms of dollars. Like I could quantify how much money I make from my legal practice through this podcast, and it's very worth the time.
Yeah.
And so like you put all that together, like, I mean, it's sort of funny to say, but I almost like if somebody like came to me and said, I could give you like 10 times your audience right now, like with the wave of a wand, I almost not even sure if I would want that. Really? Well, here's why. Well, right. Just like, audience, great. Well, I mean, for a few reasons. Why? Like, at that, if I were to, at that number, even if I were to monetize an audience of that size, I don't know if that would, be enough income to like allow me to quit my day job, even assuming I even wanted to quit my day job, which I don't. I love being a lawyer.
Right.
And what it does mean is it attracts a bunch of scrutiny, right? Big,
True.
Once you get to like the, 500,000, 250,000, 100,000 listener range, you start to attract the weirdos. You start to attract the crazies. You start to attract like the people who are a-holes to you on social media.
Yeah.
And for somebody like me who's just trying to raise my kid, run a legal practice, build a nice, fun community of people I like talking to and having a live stream with each week, an audience 10 times his size tends to kind of get in the way of that and affect my ability to be a good lawyer.
Yeah.
And so, and I was telling all this to my friend and like they thought it was an interesting thought. And hopefully it's going to be enough to get them to start a podcast because I think they'd be good at it. But I mean, is anything I'm saying kind of resonating with you? Like, do you get sort of a similar experience from podcasting or, doing similar kind of media?
Yeah. I mean, for context too, I had a podcast for, I don't know, 4 years maybe. And I don't actively do it anymore. But what is actually funny is that at one of my major clients that I have is a law firm. I know, a little random, but we're actually starting a podcast with them. So I'm like I never left the podcasting world because obviously I'm here once a month, but I'm like going back into it again in another new capacity. And what I like about podcasting at being the one who is the host is that I just felt like it always gave me an opportunity to process things. My podcast was for musicians and it was a lot of like tips and tricks and also very focused on mindset and wellness. So there were some times where and it was my podcast, so I could do whatever I wanted. And so there were definitely a lot of times where I would just do like storytelling or lesson learning, but like through like, again, stories that, of things that happened to me or happened to clients. And it's such a nice way to like just process emotionally, intellectually, like to kind of talk things out and be able to provide arguments for why you should or shouldn't do things, to tell stories, to just share things that you've realized. And that all sounds very, very vague, I know, but all this to say, it's a nice way to kind of get to know yourself better, and almost just like it's a creative outlet, but it's also like an emotional and connectivity outlet, because if you are on a podcast where you're having guests, you have how often do we get to sit with people for 1 hour uninterrupted and just like talk through something? So even if it's like work related, I feel like it's just a really great way to connect with yourself, but also to connect with other people.
It is such a great networking hack, especially for people like me who are not good at the cocktail parties, right? I am not the person who's going to work a room. I'm the sit in the corner and like just wait for the people with the food trays and just grab as much food as I can and stuff my face with it until the party's over.
Yeah.
Like I'm not a small talk person. I'm a deep conversation person. And, podcasting plays so much more to my strengths in terms of networking in that way, as opposed to meeting somebody at a party. And it's funny because like, I think inviting people to interview appeals to their ego. And I think it gets them to want to talk to you, right? If Katie Zaccardi asks like an important person in the music industry, do you want to can we hop on a Zoom for 30 minutes to talk about, your career, and I want to learn more about you? Maybe they say yes because they're nice and they like hanging out with you, but they could just as easily say no because they're like, what's in that for me? Yeah. But for some reason, when you pitch the podcast, when you say you want to come on my podcast, you get so much higher of a conversion rate.
Yeah.
I remember I once told a law student, I told them this recently. I was like, because they were like, man, I'm really worried as a first-year law student that I'm not going to be able to find a job and, and meet like hiring partners. And I was like, why don't you start a podcast on your law school campus? Your law school will probably even give you funding for it. Start a podcast all about how to get hired at a law firm and interview every hiring partner in town. And even if nobody listens to your show because it's such a niche topic, you will have met every hiring partner in town.
So true.
And you'll have them, and they'll all know you as like, oh, this is the how to get hired expert. And now your foot's in the door everywhere. Like, it's such a great networking hack.
It is. And I feel like it's a good, like, there's a new, let me get my thoughts together. I think
it's the bangs.
It's easy to look at podcasting and be like, this is oversaturated, or this is on its way out. Like, we're past, like, I feel like in 2020, especially, or those few years, podcasting really took off because we had nothing else to do. So I was like, why? Everyone's starting a podcast. Everyone's listening to podcasts. But podcasts are still going strong. They're still going strong. And I think that even now, when you go on TikTok, I mean, I would say like at least 10% of the content I see is video clips from podcasts. So that's actually one of the reasons why we're doing it at the law firm, is because I was trying to figure out how we can create more content in a fun way that appeals to how the lawyers like to do things without trying to force them to do like a 30-second video every 5 minutes. And I'm like, well, great. We'll just do a podcast and then I'll just take snippets from this for, TikTok, but then people can go and listen to the whole episode. So it really has a lot of pros and cons. Like, if you want to build your network, if you want to build your social media network, I think it's a really good way to get content, because you don't have to be so structured, or like, you don't have to be so succinct, because you can do your podcast, you can be long-winded and then just take little sections. And not only does that allow you to have your short-winded content, but it encourages people to want to go listen and get more, and so on and so forth.
I'm going to start using the adjective short-winded. Like, whenever I find somebody who like gets to the point quickly and is concise and blunt, that was remarkably short-winded of that person. I like that. I'm going to steal that.
Thank you.
So
Said no one ever about me.
or your co-host for sure. Or any lawyer that's ever existed, frankly.
Yeah.
So,
Touche.
a pretty interesting piece of copyright news that came out last week in Billboard, Katie. In 14 separate federal court actions that were filed on July 19th, a bunch of major music companies led by Cobalt Music, one of the big heavy hitters in indie publishing, filed lawsuits against like half the NBA, the basketball league, half the NBA teams, alleging that these teams violated copyright law by creating a bunch of and you see these all the time with basketball teams, right? Creating videos of like their players and stuff, hype videos, promoting the team, promoting the upcoming season, and having copyrighted music playing in the background. And, these are, they're alleging willful infringement. So you could be looking at, 6 figures of damage times each act of infringement could be pretty huge. But, and I think the NBA knows that they might be in a little bit of trouble here, because whenever you see this sentence in an article, that like, there's something in it. It was something along the lines of, the NBA declined comment when reached for comment. That's code word for, oh no, we need like a week to figure this out and we'll get back to you. But I think this story is an interesting one, but it also underscores a pretty important piece of copyright law that creators need to know and that brands need to know when it comes to TikTok. The relationship between music and TikTok and copyright law is a pretty, what's the word I'm looking for? Arduous, tenuous, difficult, complicated one.
Yeah.
Because music is the lifeblood of TikTok. 90% of the videos that you're going to see on that platform, music plays a central role, whether it's some kind of music related meme on TikTok, or it's just or it's just some video where music's playing in the background. Music's a big deal on that platform.
Yeah.
And because of the culture of TikTok and how freely music is used, people tend to think that everybody can use pretty much any piece of audio. And you might even think, well, I see a bunch of creators using this song. This song must be okay. So I'm going to use it too to promote my brand, to promote my business, to promote my basketball team. And I think it is important, especially if you work for any kind of company or you are a social media manager for a company, to understand the difference between commercial use of music on a platform like TikTok and non-commercial music. Most TikTok creators are doing it for non-commercial purposes. When you're just making a funny video, when you're doing a clever dance, when Katie Zaccardi is giving advice on TikTok, when Ryan Kairalla is doing silly videos on TikTok, that's non-commercial use. We are using it socially to have fun, to create engaging content. We're not directly trying to promote a product or service. But then there's also a lot of people who are using TikTok to promote their brand or service, commercial use, right? Whether it is directly creating a commercial on TikTok that has music in it, or it's like directly promoting your company in a video. That's commercial use. And on TikTok, and as well as other social media platforms, the music rules are different there. And so TikTok has what's called a commercial music library. And so if you're using TikTok for commercial purposes, you can use the music in the commercial music library. TikTok has pre-cleared it. If it's not in the commercial music library, TikTok makes very clear you have to clear these rights separately.
Right. Which, and correct me if I'm wrong, but if you are a business account on TikTok, you usually don't even have access to that music that's not cleared. Like it won't show up with the ability for you to use it.
That is correct. But most of these brands will just upload the original sound. And not necessarily
some of
even
them just don't go as businesses. They just like don't have that as
and
their
and
account.
it's not necessarily malicious, right? Like they're not being, they're not twirling their mustaches. Ha ha! I'm going to violate copyright law.
Right.
It's more of just like these accounts are run
As
by.
far as we know.
Yeah. I mean, certainly Cobalt Music's going to allege it's willful infringement, but a lot of times it might just be like a pimply-faced 22-year-old running the social media account who wants to run the company's TikTok like their own TikTok, and they think that the rules are the same.
Yeah, and I feel like it's funny because sometimes you do see brands talking about how annoying it is that they can't use the trending sounds because of that, and then they'll do like almost like parodies of it or like, funny stuff with that, or just have to use something else. But it's one of those things that's like sort of known, but also not known enough. And you can't blame them for wanting to do it. Like if there's a song that's trending and a specific trend going along with it and you want to use that, it makes sense, but it's a little murky water.
It's very murky, particularly because the amount of money that, and because the reason why the Cobalt Musics and a lot of the artists involved here, because like the songs that they used are like big time artists: Jay-Z, Cardi B, Meek Mill, Outkast. Like some of the biggest names in music are basically the ones going after the NBA in this lawsuit. And the reason why they're all particularly upset is because if this music was licensed on the open market as like a real, sync license, master use license situation, that's a lot, it usually costs a lot of money.
Yeah.
The licensing fees are substantial. If you want to use I've done deals for clients where somebody who's not as famous as Cardi B and Jay-Z can get their music synced in a TV commercial for like $5,000, $10,000. And that's somebody who's not Jay-Z.
Yeah.
Jay-Z can probably command 5, 10, 20 times as much for their music to be used. So when they see the Atlanta Hawks or something just use or some NBA team, I don't want to name anyone specifically because I don't know who's attached to like who's using which artist's music.
Yeah.
But like, when they're seeing an NBA team just using their music in what's essentially a TV commercial and doing it for free, you could see why they're pretty upset about this.
Yeah, I get that. And so let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Has the NBA taken down the videos, or has the music, because sometimes TikTok will remove the music outright. Has TikTok done that?
There has been some amount of that, I believe, that's happening, but damage is already done.
Right.
And
yeah.
And this is going to be and by the way, this isn't the first time we've seen a suit like this. There's been a few companies that have gotten into this same murky water, as you so aptly put it. I think the restaurant Chili's got hit with something like this some time ago. But I think this, in terms of scale, this is the biggest one of these, I think, because this is a whole honkin' sports league with more than a dozen teams involved, including our Miami Heat down here in Miami. So,
so they're suing the NBA directly as opposed to suing the specific teams?
I believe the teams are. I mean, I have to look at the complaint again. It might be the league and the teams. Depending on, but because I think these are separate lawsuits, so I think like different teams are named in different lawsuits.
Yeah,
but I think the important lesson, obviously our viewers and listeners are not involved with NBA teams, but many of them do social media, and I'm sure that more than a few of our viewers and listeners work for clients in the commercial side of social media. They're social media managers, and they need to be mindful of this because you can get your company in a lot of trouble. And a lot of companies don't know this, especially if you're doing social media management for like a small business. They don't have a legal department to remind you how copyright law works. Know this so that you don't get your company in trouble.
Yeah. And get fired. I would imagine whoever was in charge of that is going to end up as collateral. Maybe not, but you don't want to end up being the person who costs your company millions when it could have not been that much.
God, we do have the entertainment industry does have this like long and proud history of companies being taken down by 21-year-old social media managers who make a mistake because they don't know how the law works and they don't know what they're doing. And, and it's funny to me, right? And it's sort of because you always like every year, not even, every month, I should say, Don't we always have like one of these scandals of a social media manager getting their company in trouble because they tweeted something they shouldn't have tweeted under the company's name?
Yeah. It's like they meant to put it on their personal account.
Oh my
but
God.
didn't.
Or they just like try for a joke that lands flat and it
Bad,
makes the
yeah.
company look bad, right? And it just kind of makes you wonder, like, for many companies, like the social media person is like the lowest paid person in the company, or is an intern who's just doing it for the summer or something like that.
Yeah.
And it just seems like such a dangerous thing, to put your whole company's brand in the hand of somebody who you're not paying well, who isn't trained, and who doesn't have like legal experience and things like that.
Yeah.
And so that you run into issues like that where, hype videos get posted on TikTok that allegedly violate a great deal of copyrights. Pretty interesting stuff.
Treat marketing people better.
Yes. If
So
we can leave
dumb mistakes.
If we can leave people with no other advice today, let's be nicer to the marketing people. Let's treat them right.
All right. Treat them right.
Yes, ma'am. We're going to take a break and then be joined by Hadley Spanier, musician, here on Break the Business. Don't go anywhere. Break the Business is presented in cooperation with Ryan Kairalla, PA. Ryan Kairalla, PA is a law firm providing transactional entertainment legal services, including contracts, business formation, commercial law, copyright, trademark, and more. Ryan Kairalla, PA, Miami, Florida. rkpalaw.com.
Streaming services for Break the Business provided by LEK Entertainment. LEK Entertainment is a full-service entertainment company offering everything from consultations to full-scale events and productions, including audio and video productions, voiceovers, staged theatrical productions, script and music development, and streaming services. For more information, visit lekentertainment.com. LEK Entertainment wants to help you bring your story to life.
Thanks for supporting Break the Business. If you have a question or topic that you want us to discuss, email us at breakthebusiness@gmail.com. You can follow the host, that's me, on Twitter at Ryan Kair, and you can follow the show at the BTB Podcast. Be sure to subscribe to the show on Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook, and on all major podcast platforms. And now, let's get back to the show. Daniel Neruda comments a pretty good point, and I'm going to say it's a good point because he's agreeing with me. The commenter writes in both the points that Ryan mentioned. This is about my point about how if somebody could magically give me 10 times as much audience as I have right now, I'm not sure I would want it because of all the crap that comes with it. So Daniel writes in both the points that Ryan mentioned and the pressure of now being an authority made her, and he's talking about another podcaster who has a bigger audience, made her start to pull back from posting and second guessing about how her actions would be seen by others, including likes and retweets. So if you're the kind of person who wants to create a podcast because they just kind of want to build their brand as a professional, maybe they, as a lawyer or a doctor or a teacher or something like that, I think there's a sweet spot in listenership where you have enough listeners that you are legitimately an authority and you're not just, talking to nobody. But if the audience gets too big, where it's not big enough that you're not making a lot of money, but it's big enough that you're attracting a bunch of crazies and you're always afraid that you're going to say the wrong thing and get your life ruined and people are going to torture you on social media, that's not fun.
No, and
I like my little community.
We should put a pin in that conversation. I was just talking about that with my parents, just like the craziness of social media comment culture and how people will go cuckoo bananas. And it really does matter. Like, if you go super viral, sometimes you're opening yourself up to not good things. And in fact, sometimes staying more niche is better because you're reaching your people and you're pretty much only reaching your people and you're not having to deal with a lot of the outside hate that unfortunately can come.
The riches are in the niches, I've heard said before.
Yes, indeed.
And, so nice to get a kind of a different perspective on podcasting. And hopefully it encourages some people to get into this medium, because it's been very, very rewarding for me. It's the coolest thing I've done professionally. It's been great. Because we get to talk with fantastic guests like our guest this week, let's go ahead and introduce her.
Highly share the sound, knowledge flowing all around on Break the Business. Here we go, music spirit, watch it grow.
Our guest this week is the global head of artist partnerships and industry relations for the music education platform Musician. Recently, Musician partnered with Billie Eilish to bring the Grammy-winning superstar's music to the education platform, joining other artists who have partnered with the platform, such as Adele, Harry Styles, and Jason Mraz. You can find out more about our guest's work by visiting musician.com. We are happy to welcome Hadley Spanier onto Break the Business. Hi, Hadley.
Hi, how are you?
Doing so well. It is a pleasure to be chatting with you. I don't know how much of what you heard in the first segment, but I opened the show by just shamelessly gushing about how cool I think your platform is. And God, how much I wish it existed when I was in high school and the only way you could learn about music was just having a guitar teacher yell at you until you cried, right? Your platform works a lot better. Musician doesn't yell at me. And so, where were you when I was a sad high school kid? That's all I'm asking.
Our platform was actually created by two friends who were in college and wanting to teach themselves how to play musical instruments. And they couldn't find good ways to do it or engaging ways to do it, like you were explaining. And so they created this out of that frustration.
Well, the frustration is shared. Let's talk about that frustration a little bit. I mean, I don't know how much you've studied like the psychology of learning a musical instrument, but I would imagine that, in your work, you've come across a lot of people who have said, I tried learning piano, I tried learning guitar, I couldn't do it. I couldn't get over maybe the initial hump of being a novice and not getting to the next level. Based on your experience, why do people have trouble learning a musical instrument? What are some of the factors that are causing them to give up?
Yeah, I mean, it's actually similar to learning anything or trying to create any kind of new habit. It takes a lot of consistency and sticking with it when there's a challenge, and also sticking with it when you get distracted by something else. And so we are trying to create that habit as well as we can. And we find that people need a taste of success early on to keep going. We try to get our users to, from starting on our platform to playing their first song as quickly as possible, because we find that helps with retention. But yeah, I mean, we're competing not just with somebody's own frustrations with the task at hand, but also with anything going on in their daily lives and anything else that would be taking our attention away any given time. People in real life, scrolling, watching, whatever it may be.
And so does having a software solution that, uses your computer's existing equipment, like your microphone and everything, and just having a seamless platform where you don't have to drive to your guitar teacher's house, where you don't have to, where you can study songs that are, by the great artists of our time, like Billie Eilish, instead of just, learning Jimmy Crack Corn like I did when I was, learning guitar, engaging songs, seamless user experience. I assume that's the way that Musician tries to overcome some of that psychological issues that keep people from learning an instrument.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, people are walking around every day with what they use to play, on Musician. We have two products, by the way, Musician, who teaches you how to play a musical instrument, and Guitar Tuna is the world's leading tuning app. We have 20 million monthly active users combined between our two platforms. And really any artist that I've ever worked with in my career who plays guitar or any stringed instrument has Guitar Tuna on their phone and is using it backstage to help tune their instrument. to just play on their own. So everyone's walking around with our products inherently. And we have 5 instruments on Musician, 2 of which don't technically require a physical instrument to be with you. One, of course, is your voice, which you're carrying around with you at all times. And the other is piano, which, technically speaking, is best done with a physical keyboard, but we do have the ability for users to play with our keyboard that's on the screen.
Oh, I like that. That's very, very cool. Yeah, meeting people where they are. To me, the other big part of what makes Musician a cool platform that I think helps keep people learning music is the role that you play specifically at Musician, which is the artist partnerships, right? It's a whole other experience to know that like you're using a platform and there's Billie Eilish and there's Billie Eilish's music, which I am sure you've properly licensed.
Of course.
So you
All of
don't
it,
have to
yeah.
worry about what the NBA is going through right now.
No.
You got all the paperwork signed off. Your legal
Yes.
department gets a gold star, I'm sure. I love that aspect of it. And I love that your company leans so hard into the artist partnerships. Can you talk about that work that you do and how important artist partnerships are to your platform being successful?
Yeah. For the users, which is as any brand should be focused entirely on, it's really there to excite and engage them. We find that our users are always looking to play the hit songs from the artists that they know and love. And then once they play those big hits from the artist, then we can, get them interested in deep tracks and, introduce them to new artists. But people are coming on and searching for the artists that they know and love. So actually, what we do first is make sure that we have the best song catalog among all of our competitors or anyone else in this space. And that is through our licensing deals, which we do really well. Not just with, we have deals with the publishers, but also there are some artists who appear on exclusion lists, and we have to work with them directly to remove them from those to have their music available. And then, the artist partnerships are a great way to get our users excited about new things that are going on. On the flip side, for the artists, it's proven to be really enticing for them as well, because it's a new outlet for them to reach our 20 million monthly active users. None of our competitors are working with artists in the way that we are. And we have found that when a fan learns to play a song from the artist that they love, it creates a deeper connection with that artist that I personally think is even deeper than streaming a song, buying some merch, or going to see them live. It's up there with that, but anyone who plays a musical instrument knows the first song that they learned on that instrument, or they have that song from the artist that they know and love that's their goal to learn. And so we want to tap into that connection.
Now, what about the artists who are not Billie Eilish or Jason Mraz or Adele? I think there's still a lesson that the indie artist can learn from what you just said about how music education can be this really powerful bridge to cultivating particularly strong relationships with your fans, right? If you were an indie artist who's not licensed with Musician, but is just trying to promote themselves, how might you use that to try to build fan relationships? Like, should artists be creating tutorials for their fans on how to play their music, for example, maybe a YouTube video, here are the chords to my song?
Yeah. I learned from every great artist that I've worked with that you're nothing without your audience, and you need to be constantly serving them. And as a marketer, I can say that the very basic level, you should know who they are really well, and that will inform you on how best to deliver for them. One of the bigger artists that we've done a partnership with, which launched 2 years ago, was Metallica. And their entire philosophy throughout their career is to serve their fans. And it then in turn serves the artist very well, right? And so artists of any level can take a cue from that if you understand who your fans are, and then you cater to them in whatever way they need. If you're an instrumentalist, and that's part of how you share your art with the world, of course you should be sharing how how to play those songs if it's right for your fans.
Oh, gosh, Katie, we were talking earlier about one of the cool things about podcasting is how it allows you to create additional content that you can repurpose and clip up and, make into YouTube videos or TikTok videos or things like that. Because ultimately, right, the challenge is, how do I create more and more content? I don't want to be without content. Seems to me that instructional videos, how to play chords, how to play my song, here's that kind of stuff, the music education, that's another pretty great vein of content that artists can exploit, right, Katie?
I think so. I mean, I was actually just watching Ingrid Michaelson on TikTok, and I think she is somewhat new to TikTok.
I love that she's TikToking. It makes me so happy.
I love her, and I've been a fan for years and years, and she did one of those videos where it's like, sing with me, or I'll sing the harmony and you sing the melody, which you see a lot on TikTok. And that's, I think, a version of this type of post where you can involve your fans. And Hadley, what you were saying about fans being able to actually play your music kind of just makes them super fans. I think that's so true. And number one case study is Taylor Swift. For those of us who grew up with Taylor Swift, if you played guitar or even piano or really anything, but it's particularly those two instruments, there were a lot of Taylor Swift songs that were approachable and pretty easy to learn. And then you could sing and play them, or just play them and, someone else can sing. And I feel like that's what makes made her fans super fans, because obviously music is a form of expression. And if I'm not able to not just listen to the song, but also literally express the song myself, I'm going to have a much deeper connection with the song. And then of course with the artist who wrote it.
I hear Taylor Swift is a great example. I hear all the time from parents, oh, my daughter is such a Taylor Swift fan.
Yeah.
And the next thing that follows is, she knows all the lyrics to every song.
Yeah.
Now, that is a way to fully connect with the artist. If you take that and double down on it, playing their song, you can only imagine the depth of connection that's formed there.
Yeah.
To your point.
And I'll say too that I play piano and I play guitar. And when I was learning piano, which I don't know if it's still like this, but at least back in my day, you had to go the classical route. You were there's no other option to learn piano as a child besides learning the classical basics, and then maybe you can branch out. And I remember begging and pleading with my mom, I just want to play pop. I just want to play this on the radio. I just want to play this on the radio and sing to it. And eventually I did find a teacher, thank the Lord, who let me do that. And with guitar, I was sort of self-taught and then ended up getting lessons. But in that phase of things, I was playing Taylor Swift and I was playing the Beatles, and I was really teaching myself how to play guitar using those two artists. And I feel like to this day, I listen to those artists and very much revere them because of that, honestly.
Mm-hmm. Oh. Absolutely. And we have a lot of the classical stuff, and it's popular, and it's interesting to see the data of what our users are searching for and playing.
Yeah.
And you have this really interesting mix that I'm sure exists nowhere else in the world, of some of the biggest classical songs of all time and some of the biggest contemporary pop hits of right now. It's really cool.
That's very.
And then there's rock. I mean, it's people want to play what they love, and so we try to provide that for them.
I love that.
Katie, you brought up a brand of a genre of TikTok video that is also, I will admit, is one of the best kind of fan engagement things that musicians can do.
Yeah.
But also gives me the biggest anxiety attack every time I see one of these videos, which is the you sing the melody and I sing the harmony TikTok video.
Yeah.
Because I want to do those. I want to be good enough to do those. And without fail, in 100% of me trying to do those, we're both singing the harmony by the end. Like,
Somebody's wrong.
yeah, halfway through, it's like, nope, we're just gonna do a unison on the harmony. Ingrid Michaelson, sorry. Just, I want to be able to do those so bad, but
I think you need musician. So you can learn how to harmonize properly, or rather, not harmonize properly.
We're not harmonized. I'm too good at harmonizing. I'll harmonize even when it's not my job to harmonize. Oh my gosh. But I have 1,000 more musician questions, Hadley, because I do think it's a really, really cool platform. But I have also read about you that you are quite the baking aficionado. And that speaks to me as somebody who is an aficionado of eating all things baked. And so, I feel like we have a very complimentary relationship here. Whatever you make, I will be eating, and I'll be very happy for that ability to do that. Tell me what is, and whenever anybody's like an expert on cooking, I like to ask some version of this question. What is your most controversial baking opinion or baking take? Like, a baked good that you think is delicious that other people don't like, or maybe a baked good that you think is overrated, or an ingredient that you think can go in a baked good that other people don't like.
Okay. I don't love brownies. A brownie has to be really, hold on. A brownie has to be really, really good to be good. There are so many brownies that are just dry and not rich enough. And so that is my take. If you disagree with me, I think you're eating a lot of bad brownies.
Well,
I've never met a brownie I didn't like.
Can I piggyback on that? Because I agree, and I think there's way too many brownies out there that are dry with hard chocolate chips in them. And I'm like, why are you doing this to me? Unless it's warm and the chocolate chips are melted, I do not want like hard chocolate chips in the middle of my brownie.
This is the most shocking. I've been hosting this program for 10 freaking years. This is the most shocking thing. I can't believe I am tolerating this kind of brownie slander on this program.
It's actually pro brownie. It's pro anything that is good quality. Something has to be really good. I think I can tell by looking at a baked good in a display case if it's going to taste good or not. There's a look to it. Things have to just go on. Yeah.
Chocolate chips are delicious, and I'll take a chocolate chip in the brownie any day. And yeah, it's when they're just out of the oven, piping hot. I'm all about it. Especially you give me one of those corner pieces, something that's like rubbed up against the side so you get it nice and crispy. I'm all for that. But even I've been known to F with a day old brownie. I'm fine with day old brownie. A little bit stale, still chocolatey, still good.
We might have different brownie taste levels.
Brownie with vanilla ice cream on top. Hello.
Like, I think you need a fudgy brownie rather than a cakey brownie. That's my opinion. But
yeah, my other take on baking, it's not controversial, but I just have a theory, knowing a lot of really great cooks, people who can just whip up a meal really quickly from whatever is in front of them. What I find so calming about baking and so cathartic about it is also what I find really calming in the world, which is that if you can follow a set of instructions and know that you'll get a certain outcome, it's really relaxing and also allows you then within it to play around and be creative. I think that people who are really great cooks are actually really great entrepreneurs and can just throw things together and dive into the process without any kind of framework around it. So I'm not hating on either. The way that I work is much more in tune with like the psychology of a baker, in my opinion.
What is your favorite baked good? What's your favorite thing to make?
I always answer this by saying my favorite thing to make is whatever's being requested. Whoever I'm around or with, what they want, I can usually make. I think that I usually, I gravitate towards probably more like classically American baked goods, pies, cookies, cupcakes, cakes, things like that. I made a really good strawberry shortcake with like a biscuit from scratch a
Oh,
couple weekends ago.
oh yes.
Yum. Where do
That
you
made
live, by
producer
the way?
Lauren happy. Because producer Lauren loves herself strawberry shortcake. And like my whole childhood was, making or eating strawberry shortcakes that producer Lauren, my sister, put together. All right, I'm back on board. You got me back around, Hadley.
Okay. Okay.
All right. Obviously, you know your stuff. If you're telling me that you're making strawberry shortcakes from scratch, high five. I love it. You can find out more about our guest work by visiting musician.com. It's a cool platform. Please avail yourself of the opportunity to learn a musical instrument in a way that I wasn't able to do growing up. You don't have to have your high school guitar teacher yell at you. You can use a cool tech-focused platform like Musician and have Billie Eilish teach you a musical instrument. I'm all for that. Hadley, or actually, quick production note here. Producer Lauren, I do want to close the show with the Happy Hoffman song, right? We wanted to play that Happy Hoffman song. We'll have that ready for the end of the show. But before that, we got one last question for you. And again, we thank you so much for being on the show this week. This has been an absolute blast. Learned a lot and just had a fun chat. But last question before we let you go. Do you have any last tips for the indie creators out there to help them move their careers forward?
Yes. I mean, you touched on this earlier about podcasting and networking through that. As I was listening, I was thinking, who's using who here? Something to think about.
We're getting
but-
so much more out of this, believe us.
But really just meet as many people as you can. And my advice to anybody, like people who ask me how to get into the business, it applies to indie creators, really anybody, is you want to become, for everyone that you meet in a professional capacity, the go-to positively spirited person who can deliver. And so in whatever way you're working, if people know that they can rely on you and you're going to be doing something well and with a positive attitude, they're going to come back to you the next time they need something done. And it's a really good way to keep getting asked to do more things.
Our guest has been Hadley Spanier, the Global Head of Artist Partnerships and Industry Relations for the music education platform Musician. Find out more by visiting musician.com. Hadley, thank you so much for joining us this week.
Thank you so much. This was really fun.
Right on. Special treat as we close the show this week, viewers and listeners. A couple weeks ago, we had Happy Hoffman on the show, a terrific singer-songwriter, and she has been kind enough to let us play her new song, Close, that's out now. And so we're going to close the show with that, and really excited for it. So here is Close by Happy Hoffman on Break the Business. We'll see you next week.
I want the kind I think both of us deep down know we're holding out for. The kind I think both of us deep down know we're holding out for. Stuff love poems are written about.
Tell me what you want, I need to know. Maybe it's too fast, just take it slow. Even in the dark, we're always hiding. Don't keep me in the dark when love is dying. just want you close, but you're so far. I love you, but I don't know who you are. I just want you close, but you're so far. I don't wanna be alone when I'm with you. When I'm with you, I don't wanna be alone when I'm with you. When I'm with you, I don't wanna be alone when I'm with you. When I'm with you. Tell me if this love was made to grow. Baby, if you stay